All right, we're going to have to do screen tearing on the fly because I didn't realize I was going to start with a cutscene. I'll make sure everything seems to be capturing fine. This may be the first time in who knows how long, or not in who knows how long, however long it has been that we started this, that I've got decent resolution because I didn't realize I could. I mean, it's not that I didn't realize I could check it. It's that I didn't even think to do so. I suppose if you had asked me if I could do it, I probably could have. I just never bothered to go into the OBS settings and diddle them. Not at least until I moved to Linux, which I'm not using today because I still haven't figured out the Linux codecs. But I at least got the resolution on the Windows version of OBS better.
Suppose I could have skipped this.
Oh, yes, we could have.
All right, let's do a dance. Make a little love. Oh, ooh. Nope.
Is that how you do it? Here, quick, punch me in the back of the head. I don't think...
I think that just took a really weird turn.
Well, I mean, it's an unconventional strategy, certainly. One might even say questionable. I don't remember if this is the fight we were in. I guess it must be. So you said you had thoughts. I've got a minor thought of a more flippant topic that may not go very long if you're...
Well, I mean...
If you're compromised for brain activity at the moment.
Right now I am.
I was thinking about this the other day because I think we've had a discussion, who knows how long ago it was, about the concept of being a fan of something and what that actually means. And how you reliably establish whether or not you're a fan of something. Ooh. I don't know what happened there, but it wasn't pretty.
Was the screen tearing...
Oh, I didn't even check. I mean, I said it.
Lying down on your duties.
I did do what I normally do to stop it. I guess I just haven't checked that it did actually stop it. So, we'll see. It occurred to me that there may not be... The definitions we gave might be limited. Or at least the definition I gave. I don't know if you're committed to mine. Because my previous thought was if a artist has a track record of success with me, such that I can pretty much guarantee when they release a new album or a new whatever it is that they do. I'm doing a quick check mid-battle. Doesn't look like screen tearing. If their track record is solid enough that I can reasonably know when they release something that I'm going to like it, that's what was my previous definition of fan.
Sure.
But what I wonder, because I have noticed lately, as I've been more deliberate about finding music and searching out new artists, that there's people who I'm not quite to that level with, but that I'm still like, if they put something out, I'll listen to it just out of curiosity. And I don't know what to call that.
Dating.
I mean, if I could date some of these people, I retract that statement. Or is it perhaps that the fan terminology? Maybe I'm implying too much.
No, I don't think
maybe
so.
You're a fan whenever you're interested, and maybe you're like, I don't know, a super fan or something. Like, because I could call myself a Billy Joel super fan. I wouldn't balk at that label, because I know like Billy Joel and me go back to such an extent that like anytime, well, I mean he doesn't release new music, but like anytime I listen to a Billy Joel album, I can pretty much guarantee that I'm gonna like a healthy chunk of it, if not all of it. And that maybe that's too high a barrier for pure fandom. Maybe that's ultra fandom.
Yeah, but
well, or if you don't think that that's the case, then what do you think? What's my intermediate phase?
I don't know that I don't agree with that there should be two different distinctions.
Fandom courtship.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some sort of a something like.
I'm courting the fandom. I'm courting being a fan.
No, courtship even sounds too. Maybe we're just gonna have a fling.
Yeah, but see, a fling would be more like totally sight unseen.
Never gonna give you
like a fling. Theoretically, a fling.
You were gonna be rickrolled today.
A fling would basically just be like if I listen to an album by an artist I've never heard of, and I just out of curiosity.
Well, I mean,
Like, there's artists who I know that I'm not so... I don't have a guarantee that I'm going to like whatever they do. But I'm at least...
Sure.
I want to at least follow them, because whenever they do something, I at least want to know about it. Even if I don't end up liking it. I would put Halsey in this category, where it's like, there's songs of hers, and in fact, even whole albums that I've liked, but then there's also albums that I'm like, I could take or leave this one. So anytime she produces an album, I want to know about it so I can give it a chance, but it isn't like, oh, I'm going to like this. If Billy Joel released an album tomorrow, the world would be a much better place. But then also, if that did happen, I would probably buy it sight unseen. I'd be like, I'm just going to, it doesn't matter, I'm buying this. Billy and I go back far enough that I'm confident I will want this.
Sure.
I wouldn't do that with Halsey, even if I find her interesting as an artist. And I don't know what to classify that relationship as. Parasocial, I suppose, is the psychological definition, but...
Is there a... okay. Is there
That's what I'm asking you for.
Well, but I'm saying, is there already a kind of determined...
I don't know.
I mean, I would say it's just...
I feel like most people just use vibes when they talk about being a fan of something.
No.
So I wouldn't trust what the common parlance calls it, because some people would be like, yeah, I'm a fan of Journey. I love Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah, but no.
And that's right. Well, exactly. That's what the kind of thing I'm saying. I want to be more thorough than that.
No, I jumped away from that. You pterodactyl.
I think you... I didn't see you get hit by that. That one I did see. That you took on the back. Well, so you're of no help.
I guess.
You agree that there should be a category, you just don't know what it should be called?
Well, I mean, the most sensible statement, in my opinion, would be something akin to dating. It's like a...
But that's a weird... Why?
I don't know, because that's what you do. You're...
Well, no, because I'm not married to Billy Joel.
Well, okay.
Because obviously you can be a fan of multiple artists.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because experimentation sounds worse.
Well, no, because that sounds more like I'm listening to an artist that I don't know.
I suppose.
I've heard enough of these artists to be interested, but I'm not like I'm a fan. I wouldn't probably buy a ticket to a Halsey show because enough of her music is not my taste that I'm like, I don't know that I'd go to a show. Breaking Benjamin, I'd buy a ticket. Because all of their music is good. They're another group that I would absolutely just go to. I'm like, whatever they play from their backlog, I will like. Billy Joel, same thing.
Yeah.
But like, there's artists who I want to know when they put out a new album just so I can listen to it. But I'm not like, oh, definitely gonna love this. So what's that category?
Acquisition.
Well, no, because this is all sounding too technical, too businesslike.
Well, I mean...
What do you mean?
On an artist level, I suppose it would be... not inspiration, maybe...
I mean, is this what most people mean when they say fan, then? And maybe I
don't know that people are that flippant with fan. I feel like fan has to carry some weight.
No, I don't think it carries any weight, to be perfectly honest. I think fan is an entirely vibe-based category for most people. And maybe that's because musical taste is such a subjective thing that they don't feel the need to quantify it the way I do.
Sure.
Because I'm an odd fellow. I like rigid structure in my life. Oof! That one was straight to the undercarriage. Because I wouldn't mind upgrading that status to being the fan status, where it's like anytime this person produces something, I want to know about it. That I could be okay with that being the definition of fan. I would then just need a new definition for my relationship with Billy Joel, or Breaking Benjamin, or someone who's
I don't
like.
think that's unfair to say super fan or.
Well, that feels a bit cliche, though. I mean, what? A devotee? That sounds perhaps a bit too serious. All right, come on, lads. Wow, that was expert. The game wanted me to appreciate how expert that was in slow motion. All right. Smack each other's man bits. mean, it's what they're doing. What? Oh, he wound that up and I ate it for breakfast.
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to get my head around what... Because I don't know that I've ever specifically classified myself within one of those categories as somebody who listens to music actively.
So you're precisely the kind of person I'm talking about, who doesn't categorize things.
But no, what I'm saying is, it's not that I don't categorize in that. I don't know that I would use the term fan so flippantly either.
Well, then we need another term for this intermediate phase. Either we have to create a new term for the super condition, or a new term for the medium condition.
I feel like it must be the mid. And I don't know what you would call it. Again, it's like it's a curiosity phase. That's,
I mean, yes, but that's not a term. That's just a description.
Intrigue.
Yeah, but then what do you call yourself? I guess you just can't call yourself a fan at that stage?
Oh. Okay, I'm just getting railroaded here by that. I don't like it one iota.
I don't like it. Nobody should like it. What is happening in between you two?
Why doesn't that actually work anytime it's giving me that prompt?
What?
That X and A context.
It's just a combo move. You do it on the nearest guy when it comes up.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying it doesn't...
Okay. You ate that.
Because I don't... It's difficult to pay attention to the rhinoceroses.
Well, I agree. That's probably why this is a boss fight.
Hate it. Oh, I hate it.
You tried to amble slowly away from the charging freight train. You really are just interested in whatever they have to give. You already got him, now you gotta get out of the way. Oh, I knew he was gonna do that. You had to... Okay.
I was shy.
Well, yeah, now they're both in the position of whatever. A stiff breeze would knock you down. Here he comes. Here he comes. Too late.
It's silly that when I push that and the A and the double A, it's weird that the slowdown itself causes that not to function. Like the fact that they do the whole weird as they're charging you in slow motion, it just...
I wish to skip, thank you.
The Roid Ragers.
Ouch.
I don't know. A follower maybe versus a
fan. I guess by the strict. I mean, I don't love that it. This is me being hipster. I don't
in
love.
A more modern
I don't love
context,
the social
following.
media language of that.
Sure,
but I suppose strictly speaking, that is what it is. Where it's like I want to be notified anytime this person does something, but that doesn't necessarily make me a fan.
It's just a following, right? Like you're...
So I guess I could say I'm a follower
Because there's times
of...
that like I'm interested in a particular post and I'll say following or whatever, but...
I suppose that might be the best. So I follow...
That's at least loose enough that it's like...
That sounds a bit stalkerish, though.
I follow
I follow Halsey. At a distance of usually 20 feet.
Sometimes closer when I can get away with it.
When the cops aren't around, I'll push it to 10. He's gonna huck a body at me. Oh, hey, help me out.
He hucked a body at his friend, and now he gets his loose meat beat.
I tell you about a man named Butcher Pete. Ouch. Jeez, hack, whack, chopping that meat. All right, one of you charge. Both of you, too. I can see you want it, mister. Give it to me. Yep, I'll deal with you in a second. Please take a ticket and form an orderly queue. Boom. All right. Doctor will see you now. Smack that prostate. Who wants a broken bone? You do. You get a broken knee. You get a broken knee. Everybody gets a broken knee. Ooh,
Including me.
Me too. Whoa. 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 That guy kicked the empty air. It was clear I wasn't there.
As opposed to the full air.
Well, I mean, it was clear that I was no longer there, but I think he just committed for the sake of saving face.
I thought he was there.
He had such good form, he was like, well, I guess we'll call this practice. Okay, I was in a mid-combo. I couldn't have done anything about that. I am so low.
Friends are talking to him later. Jerry, what were you doing? I was trying to intimidate him, y'all.
Didn't you? Bruce Lee said he fears the man who practices one kick 10,000 times. I was just, whoop! I died while performing the combo still. Batman is so focused that even as he dies, he can break a man's leg. It was the last gasp that broke that man's kneecap. Well, okay, so I follow Halsey at a safe distance, but Billy and I are tight. So I guess that solves the quandary well enough, I suppose. All right, well, you want to get on to your more meaty topics? Nope. We're gonna sit.
Momentarily, I will.
How momentarily?
Okay. After I don't have rhinoceri running at me.
Pretty soon, it sounds like. Hey. Oh, double team. Triple. Oh, you put that man into the fetal position.
You
don't run straight away. It's like a bullfight. You don't run in a straight line. He's going to serve you your own gams. I think you... Oh. I think you're supposed to wait for him to charge before you do that.
I'm just going to keep throwing them randomly.
They're about to charge eventually. That dude's about to huck a body. Ooh, that was a heat-seeking body. That was an excellent little zoom. Whoa! They smacked each other's butts so hard. I think your strategy is lacking.
I don't want your body. If you want, no!
I think he wants yours.
I don't want your body. I don't think you're sexy. Come on, baby, slap your gams.
I somehow, something tells me it ain't you who's instigating this. I think no matter what you think of him, they have thoughts about you.
What?
They totally wind up like they're about to just give you a good attaboy. You took that on the back of the chin.
I decided to ignore that fact.
And the people of Gotham.
Ooh. It is hot. I can't tell if there is or isn't screed tearing.
So, the more dense topics that I was going to get into is on the, I suppose the not yet fully actualized and yet further development of my qualification, I suppose, into
Break that arm.
Kind of tentativeness I approach stoicism with.
And
so
just being stubborn, you won't study stoicism because I tell you to. You have to do it on your own.
Well, no, I'm. It's not like I've never looked at it at all. It's just that as I have.
Come along, boys.
Well, first of all, let me say this. How much do you know of the
That was rude.
The Aristotelian golden mean.
I have heard of it.
Okay.
I might even recognize it if you tell me what it is again.
So,
Now, because I think the first thing I think is mathematically the golden mean, which is a mathematical thing. I don't think it's the thing you're talking about.
well, I mean, it's probably not far off, but Aristotle applied it to philosophy, and on a fairly on a fairly broad level.
Get him!
So I have
winding
not
that
yet
up.
fully unpacked this yet, so I am not going to go labeling myself this particular evening. However, I am finding that Aristotelian philosophy, though akin to Stoicism, has always been resonant for me in
Well, it's rationalism, basically.
It is, but it...
Or
but
I
the
guess
thing that
empiricism,
is-
technically.
Maybe. but
Plato was the rationalist, primarily.
the thing that yeah, you're not wrong as far as empiricism, because one of the things that made distinct Aristotle versus Plato was the idea that Plato was far more into the
What I did to that man's elbow should be called a war crime.
things that were external from the natural world, whereas
All right, boys.
whereas Aristotle said, well, we can understand the greater or the more heady or heavenly things through the natural world and how it functions. And so
Nice try.
what I'm realizing though is that
Those games.
Aristotle goes about as far as Stoicism, but maintains his
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Time to trade. Time to
uniqueness.
trade. I love that. That worked out just nicely. Smack him.
that
Turn around,
I
Dad.
don't feel comfortable about that, the way you described that. No,
Get him.
He goes just far enough, I think, without going so far into the, and this is where I'm going to get to the golden mean. One of the things that defined his philosophy, particularly, which I found very helpful,
You're
were
gonna
not
have to
helpful.
repeat that into the mic.
Sorry. I said you are not helpful.
I was doing well, and I got hit a bunch of times, and I'm
I
already
was
down
doing
low.
well, and then I just got bit by an ant while I was sitting here.
Nope.
So the golden mean is, to kind of encapsulate it most broadly, is Aristotle believed that true virtue was somewhere between two vices. In other words, well, and he didn't just apply this to virtue. He also applied it to all kinds of things, but
Okay.
within his own logic as well. But basically, you take something like
You gonna try it?
courage.
Give it to me.
Are you
I'm
asking me
talking
to
to
give it to you?
Yes,
I'm going to give it to you.
Give me courage.
Give me problems. Give me work.
Give it to him. Oh! Give it to him. Ouch! No!
He gave it to you.
Give it to him, bats. There it goes. He's styling. All right.
Literally. Oh,
Nicely done, Bats. You deserve a prize. Your old pal, Commissioner Gordon. Say, he looks...
it's just a different person.
Who's let you in? Uh-oh. Now Batman's going to become a Titan Mega Man. Turns out,
Yes.
Titan has no effect because he's already roided to the gills.
Here we go. We're gonna have some fun now, kiddies. You're trying to resist the change. That's not fair. Come on, give in.
I'm pretty sure canonically this is how the Batman Who Laughs comes about. Batman gets... Oh, or it might have been Joker gas as opposed to Titan.
It was Joker gas, I'm pretty sure. Because I actually watched that episode just recently.
Oh, is it in the animated series? Mm-hmm. Oh, I only ever knew that it was a comic run. Seems a bit dark for the animated series.
Oh, the animated series gets fairly serious. There are certain episodes I can't watch with the kids.
I see it, giggling in a corner and bleeding. But you've denied me even nothing to
This wouldn't. It's the. All that was Titan
Is
stuff.
this the end?
It might be actually. I do think this game ends with a Titan, because ultimately this is what's causing. This is what causes Joker to be sick in Arkham City. Is the Titan in his system? So maybe we're right at the end. Maybe this will be the last one. We'll have to find something else to do to carry on the conversation.
Well, I have the other ones.
We'll flick beans into a hat. Well, I don't know that we want to start immediately. Got to savor the ending.
Beans into a hat. So anyway, the Golden Mean. Back to this.
Yes.
So
virtue
courage.
in between vice somehow.
Well, virtue in between two sides of the
Joker's
extremes
a
on
heavy
both
metal
sides
album.
are a problem. Sorry, I really had to take that in fully. The fact that they give him a mohawk is a nice touch. It really sells the.
It's vibe based. I'm glad the pants stayed though. This could have gotten a much more awkward fight.
So, the within courage, it is the virtue in between cowardice, which is obviously not having any sort of, chutzpah, and I don't know what you would call it, maybe rashness or hubris, in that it would be so flippant with anything dangerous that it's like, well, okay, you're not. So courage sits in the middle in that it's not negligent or erratic. What is the word? There's another word on the other side of the coin that I'm trying to look for. It's rashness.
I
is
got
really what it is.
upgrades very late in the game.
And in between that sits courage. And so what his basic thought is, and this is where I would say the golden mean would apply, and I don't think it's a leap by any stretch based on what I've understood of Aristotle's theology thus far, philosophy as thus far as I've looked at it, is that even within the idea of
I guess since we're at the
ethos
end, I'll get the
and
last.
pathos, which we've talked about, he would argue that virtue is somewhere in between. And that, I think, is where I lean more towards Aristotelian philosophy, in that he actually agreed and, to the most part, actually ran in the same circles as Stoics, and yet he always kept himself more distinct from, because he had a different additional qualification, I suppose, to some of the things that he said. Like, for instance, eudaimonia was achieved in Aristotle's view through, yes, the idea of being a virtuous person, but also physical and external factors. Whereas a Stoic would say you can reach eudaimonia simply by being a virtuous person.
I don't know that
The external factors completely removed.
I mean, again, when you say things like can, sure. I don't think that means the Stoics would say that's the only way, though.
No. They, in fact, say there are certain things that they would say to be, what's the word they use? Preferable in outcome. When it's like, okay, to be wealthy is something that is preferable, but it's not something that's required. And I agree within that context. But what Aristotle says is, and what essentially I've realized is that Aristotle's philosophy, not surprisingly, was rather elitist, but so was he.
Plato is far more elitist, I think.
Well, if you look at Aristotle, not only was basically he says things like education and good looks and things like that are going to contribute to eudaimonia, and his argument is, while virtue is the most important to achieve that, you need the components that, for instance, you can't have the opportunity to be a generous person if you are always poor. Therefore, in order to reach eudaimonia in full totality, you need to have resource in order to be a generous person. And so it's like there's a bit of a...
But that doesn't mean you can't... I feel like that's... I don't know that... I mean, I don't know the sources you're talking about. I don't know that Aristotle would say that you need, strictly speaking. It's saying the fullness of it, perhaps.
Sure.
But I think even the Stoics would agree that you're saying, yeah, obviously when your, I guess what you would say it, your internal fortitude meets the external opportunity, yeah, and then yes, that's the ideal scenario. But you would have to first have cultivated doing basically a lot with a little first.
Correct.
It's a bit of the to him much is given, or what's the phrase? It's like
to the one who's faithful with little, much is given.
Yeah. You're saying you have to first have the capacity within yourself before you can then make use of the external
Well, and
benefits.
Aristotle would say virtue is crafted in the ability to have those external circumstances be a part of that equation is all I'm
I would agree.
No, that is again in the resources and things that I have been following, most of them either via
I think
lectures from various classes of colleges, or there's been a couple different
okay, I got a guy down here still. I didn't mean to do this so soon.
Modern philosophers that have been discussing this in...
Yeah, that's precisely why I didn't want to do that.
But I'm not... And here's the thing. I would agree that both the Stoics and Aristotle would be able to interact and agree on most things. It's the qualification that Aristotle gives, that there is some give, there's some margin where the Stoics tend to be a little more...
Take him out.
I mean, it doesn't... It's not different from the concept of extreme ownership context, which I think is a good...
That's the Stoics,
concept.
though. That say
That's what I mean. It's a good concept.
Well, because you won't be a generous person just because you have money.
Agreed.
You would have to first forge within yourself.
How can you do that without having resource?
No, by being faithful with little. That's what Stoicism is all about. You're saying when you don't have much to give, you still have to practice the virtue without the resource. Then, when the resource comes, you'll actually have practiced using it. Otherwise, when the resource comes, who's to say you'll? It's a little bit like saying you will never be a good person when I'm trying to think while also trying to fight a bunch of guys. To say that the reason you can't be a good person is because of your external circumstances is silly. People like to think, well, I would just be so generous if I had money.
No.
I'm not. You should be generous now when you don't have money.
Agreed.
Then when you do have money, you will actually have practiced generosity.
I would say Aristotle
you won't suddenly
agrees
become
more
generous.
With the sentiment that, for instance, a man can't be a good person if they don't have the opportunity or the capability to be, a horrible or a deviant person, because at that point that's not strength and goodness, that's just weakness.
Yes, but that's precisely why you have to practice virtue without the resource. You have to start internally.
Well, and I don't think Aristotle would disagree with that.
Well,
He's just saying
that's
external sources contribute to...
Well, the Stoics don't disagree that they contribute, but the idea is the starting point is always yourself.
And I think Aristotle would agree with that, but what the Stoics would say is it can actually be fully realized within yourself.
I don't know. Well, I mean,
they would.
In the sense that yes, you can learn generosity without ever being rich, which means you'd be like the beggar woman who gives what she has even though it's not much. That is, I think you can argue, fully formed and valid generosity, even though it isn't much. Now, obviously, when resource comes, if you have been faithful in little, then you'll be able to give. Whereas the idea that says, well, I don't have anything to give, therefore I won't, but when I do have stuff to give, then I'll give. Well, if you haven't practiced it, then when you do have stuff to give, you won't give it.
I agree.
So the argument would be, if you've practiced internally without the resources, you have achieved the virtue in its fullest form, really, because it's the same exercise.
Well, I don't think virtuousness is what Aristotle is arguing. What I was talking about was within eudaimonia, capturing
what does that mean again?
happiness. You basically, what he says is you cannot achieve an abiding contentment and happiness without. Yes, you can be a virtuous person, but that alone won't make you a contented person.
Well, yeah, but
or a happy person.
I don't know that I agree, because
Well,
Aristotle has always, his whole thing was that the secret to happiness was the exercise of virtue.
Yes.
To
but
exercise
then he
virtue
said-
was the only way to happiness.
No, that's a very Stoic idea.
No, that's a very Aristotelian idea. That happiness, the definition of happiness from an Aristotelian perspective, is the practice of virtue.
Within the context of also being
Get down
contributed
here, you.
within external environments. That is, he.
Well, but you are always in an external environment,
No,
so
but
the
what I'm
Stoics
saying
never
is
act like, well, you're just going to be a
He brought
monk.
attention specifically to, like, education and, even something like good looks and status within even a social context. All of those things he actually brought to bear within the context of eudaimonia, whereas Stoics would consider those to be more
They're superfluous.
superfluous.
Meaning it's not that they can't contribute, but they're not the root of it.
But the difference is Aristotle saw them as instrumental. Not that they're necessary, but that they are used.
I think the Stoics
in
would
order to
agree, because
develop.
instrumental just means they are useful. That doesn't mean that they're essential. I think that's...
But it is a distinction, because Stoics would say they are separate from virtue, whereas
Well, I think
Aristotle
definitionally
would
they
say
are.
they are used to develop.
Yeah, but that's still separate from. A tool is separate from what it's used for.
Yes, but one is linked to the other versus.
Well, so
complete
yes, a tool is linked
disconnection.
to the thing it's used for, but that doesn't mean that the tool by itself is the thing.
All I'm saying is that
A hammer is a means to make something. That doesn't mean having a hammer is having made something.
No, I agree, but what I'm saying is to say
I hate you, stun
within
men.
the distinction of Aristotelianism versus Stoicism, one of the things again that did
See,
define
the
the
other
two,
thing is Stoicism is based on Aristotelianism.
it is. However, the Stoics were there were Stoics, and Stoic philosophy was contemporary with Aristotle at one point, and Aristotle didn't become a Stoic.
I don't think
He
that is
was-
correct.
No, it is.
I think Aristotle was dead before the Stoics.
He interacted with them, but the thing is, he
don't-
never fully.
I don't think that's
engaged.
the case, because I don't know offhand when
I
Aristotle
can't remember
died,
who
but
it
like
was
Marcus
that was
Aurelius,
actually a credit. No, it wasn't Marcus Aurelius.
he
Again,
is one of the Stoic forefathers.
but there was a founding, the one who would have been considered the actual founder of
Minos, I think it was
Stoicism.
Minos, or Zenos, or
Zeno, yeah.
Zeno of
Zeno.
something or
And
other.
I believe he was a contemporary of.
Well, okay,
But I'm just saying.
But we also have none of his writings, so we don't know what he thought and how it relates to what
But
Aristotle
again,
said.
Aristotle never.
Are we
said-
already done? We're only halfway through this episode. We'll have to watch the end credits. Is that actually the end?
Well, I mean,
Well, we didn't even realize
story
it.
mode complete. That's sad.
On normal
That's actually
difficulty.
sad.
I suppose we could go on hard difficulty. It has been like 20-ish, 30-ish hours. That is about how long these games tend to be, so...
All super criminals are back in custody,
Darn it, Bats! What have you done with all these people?
and the venom-enhanced inmates are returning to normal.
Who's that guy?
This could be quite painful.
So apparently he can go back, he can shrink back down without
See you tonight.
that having killed him somehow.
But
I suppose it will kill him, because that's how Arkham City starts.
Is that he dies?
No, is that he's sick because of the Titan, whatever.
Stay safe.
I don't...
The point is, there is distinction, even if it was not ever
I'm gonna look
they
this
were actually fully able to interact. Even if that wasn't the case,
Well, then, your argument ceases to be valid.
no, it doesn't. Because my point
Aristotle
is,
never became a Stoic, therefore. It's like, well, Aristotle was
I'm
dead
not
before
saying
most of
he
the
never
Stoics.
became a Stoic. Therefore, that means that it. But what I'm saying is, their actual philosophies are distinct, nuanced, but
True,
distinct.
but one is built upon the other, so that's inevitable. Like,
I don't know that it's an inevitable conclusion.
well, yes, when one thing builds upon another thing, then it inevitably is distinct from the original thing.
But I don't have to make that last step, is what I'm saying. I can be an Aristotelian without being a Stoic, and the distinction is important in my opinion.
But then the question is, why do that?
Well, because for the reasons I just explained.
Because I don't think Stoicism is contrary to Aristotelianism.
It's never contrary, but it goes a step further than Aristotle would have gone, in my opinion. Again, with the golden mean concept included, I think that it's, again, not a leap to say there were certain things that the Stoics said, like within the context even of reaching that, hey, I can find that actualization of full happiness just within myself, versus I want to solely depend on my happiness on, you have like the hedonistic approach that says, well,
that's non-Stoicism.
Well, I agree, but I'm saying again, and then you have the golden mean, which is somewhere in between. It says external circumstances do contribute to, and external environmental, things do contribute to happiness, but virtue within that context is really what achieves it. And that's the part that I think
that's also
Stoics and Aristotelians would agree.
That is a Stoic argument as well.
It is. Again, I'm not saying that they're completely separate. I'm just saying it has been interesting to me to look and press more into Aristotelian philosophy particularly.
Matter of fact, according to the search result, it says that Stoicism was a school of Hellenistic philosophy that believed the practice of virtue suffices to attain eudaimonia.
Right.
And that's
Stoicism.
And I have only ever heard that as also being how Aristotle defined happiness. That happiness was the practice of virtue. Obviously, external things, again, that doesn't mean that they are necessary. Again, in the same way that Stoicism doesn't say you can't have happiness elsewhere, it's saying that they aren't necessary. The only sure way, I guess is the way of putting it, the surest way is your own internal development. Because otherwise you'll be at the whims of the universe.
Correct. And yet Aristotle would say those contributing factors are also, I wouldn't say that he maybe goes as far as to say they're necessary, but he saw them as instrumental to developing the virtue that would be needed to achieve eudaimonia. So in theory, you need them, but not in the sense that
no, okay. I'm calling you out.
Calling me out for what?
So Aristotle died in 322 BC. Zeno was born in 334. So there was only about a 10-year gap that they were even contemporaries. So no, you don't get to say that he interacted.
Again, I didn't. That was something I was confident in. I'm just saying, even within the two schools of thought on a philosophical level, I find the distinction
calling them
important.
two schools of thought immediately poses them as opposites. Whereas like Platonism,
as opposites at all.
Well, or as being a dichotomy. Whereas Platonism and Aristotelianism are at their fundamental roots pretty different. But Stoicism being built on Aristotelianism, it's like. Yes, that means that not all Stoicism is Aristotelianism and vice versa, but they are certainly not by any means branches.
Contrary, I agree.
Well, exactly. So then I don't see why this helps you in any way because
it helps me to determine where the line is, again, on how far it makes sense.
Well, but I also think you keep saying that the Stoics. Again, the thing I like about Stoicism is that it is, in my opinion, the reason I compare it to Zen often is because there is traditional Buddhist teaching, which is very much what I think you're kind of characterizing Stoicism as, where it's like you must be unattached from external things. You have to basically live your life in constant meditation, being completely aloof.
No, I'm not even saying that.
Well, okay, but that's kind of how it sounds.
Paper,
is that's what Buddhism is, and Zen is a rebellion against that. Zen is actually you can achieve enlightenment while still being a part of the world. You don't have to separate yourself and go through all of these trials of what's like asceticism. Saying no, you can actually achieve enlightenment in daily life. That's what Stoicism is about. Is you're saying essentially Stoicism. And I think what you're characterizing Stoicism as, I think, falls more cleanly under skepticism, like Diogenes.
No, because here's the thing. Marcus Aurelius actually said this. all pain is caused by yourself internally. That basically there is no such thing as pain on an external level. Everything that you are that pains you is an internal response to. I disagree with that sentiment.
It's a matter of how you frame it. It's not to say that the external factor isn't involved, but that you can overcome the external factor.
But I agree.
And that's psychological. I mean, Viktor Frankl would say this too.
Yes, but he would also give credence to the fact that external pain exists. There are people that inflict things on me because of the fact that that does exist. Social, governmental, whatever.
But see, now you're deviating from the extreme ownership, because that's precisely what they're saying. I agree. You can absolutely say I actually
Aristotle doesn't hold to extreme ownership in nearly in the same way Stoics do, and this is where I'm saying the distinction is there.
Perhaps that means he didn't go far enough.
And my argument would be I appreciate the fact that he didn't go that far. So that's the distinction. It's not that I disagree with your sentiments. It's that I go, I don't know that I would go that far.
But essentially what that's choosing to do then is basically say, well, I do possess the power, because you're acknowledging that you do possess the power to transform your way of thinking in such a way that you eliminate the something like the concept of pain. Are you denying that that's possible?
Yes, I am. I don't think that it's possible to eliminate pain strictly by just external or internal development. I think it is. I think you're putting a cap on human capacity, which is interesting because you would probably describe yourself as more of a humanist than I would. That's probably true.
And therefore it's odd that you would see there to be a limit to human potential that I don't see. Because I do think choice.
I think it's because I'm more of a humanist that I also see the flaw. I mean, we're
I don't know that I buy that. What do you
intrinsically
mean?
Flawed.
Well, yeah, that does, yes, but that doesn't.
So
but
pain
I'm saying
exists in that if I run my hand over a flame.
Well, but strictly speaking, I mean, this is I'm gonna get into Alan Watts again. Does the argument then could be, does light exist if eyes don't exist? And the extrapolated version of that, really what I mean and what Alan Watts is saying is, if there is no sensor to which light or that responds to light, then light ceases to be light as understood.
This is the whole Schrodinger's cat concept, but I think because you don't need an observer in order for it to exist. That's my argument.
Well, radiation would exist, but what we call light would cease to exist, because our definition of light is predicated on the fact that we have eyes.
Yes.
You could say, well, yes, radiation exists. It's a little bit of, and again, I acknowledge that there's a bit of perhaps pedantry, but of course you know me, and pedantry is my middle name. It's a bit of the argument that, well, if a tree falls in the wood, does it make a sound? Well, obviously, when a tree falls in the wood, it produces a pressure wave that a sensitive being would interpret as sound. Without the sensory organ there, all that's there is the pressure wave. Now, again, perhaps you might call that trickery, because I've redefined to some people's perspective what sound means. But essentially, the concept of sound is predicated on the idea of a sensory organ susceptible to variations in pressure.
Sure.
In the same way that the concept of light is dependent upon sensory organs that see radiation. But in the same way that
the concept of existence is dependent on humans. I mean, that we exist because of the fact that we are.
But yeah, but that's precise. That's a very Zen concept too.
Well, I agree. But the point is...
So that's what I'm saying is then theoretically the argument would be that if there were no eyes, if there were no organs that perceived radiation as light, then there would not be such a thing as light. There would just be the radiation.
But what I'm getting at is that you cannot remove as an observer yourself from the existence itself, because we are.
It's true. You can't, but you as the observer have the power to shape it because of the fact that you can choose what you see.
Sure. But I don't. But again, the frame is important in that I think the Stoics take to the extreme what I believe Aristotle would have left maybe in the median. And this is where I go, I'm still looking into this. I wouldn't specifically say I'm ready to just adopt and say I am an Aristotelian distinct from Stoicism. But what I'm saying is...
Well, I mean, I feel like you could call yourself a Stoic and also call yourself an Aristotelian.
That's probably true. But I also think that you could receive one without the other. And I think
I suppose. And the question is why, I suppose. Why?
Well, again, the
why
distinction
why
for me
doom
on-
yourself to a life where pain can happen to you when you could just
because
say...
I think it's more honest and human.
I mean, honest is one way of putting it. I think natural might be the way I think maybe makes more sense. And I don't deny that to feel pain is natural. That doesn't mean that shifting your framework so that you don't is
It's not a bad
unnatural
thing.
or in some way a
I'm not saying
lie.
that.
Because you say if it's more honest, that implies that the alternative is deceptive. And I don't think that that's the case.
Honest in that.
Well, it sounds like you might suggest that someone who says the old sticks and stones may break my bones thing, you're saying that they're really just lying to themselves to shield themselves from pain?
Well, I think that's true. Yeah, I think
don't
that
think
that
it is.
phrase is foolish
I
because
actually
of course
don't. I think we were better off when we taught it. Because it
they
is
do-
it
I
is a
agree.
fact that no one can alter your opinion of yourself. So words,
I
if
think
you...
that's a something I disagree with fundamentally. Yes, as an adult, you have the ability to reframe, to adjust your understanding of what they said or whatever, or to contextualize it by saying this person doesn't have any sort of ability to speak to. But as a child, for instance, who doesn't have that
but a
capacity
child, there's plenty
yet,
of things. There's plenty
they're
of
gonna be
capacities that a
wounded by
child doesn't
that,
have.
and that's okay. Like it's okay for that.
Well,
you to
yeah,
give
but I think,
credence to the
but
fact
it's in the
that-
same way that, I mean that there's plenty of capacities a child doesn't have. That doesn't mean you just let them be that way. You have to
No, of
teach
course
them.
not.
They have to gain that
course not.
capacity,
Like-
which they won't gain if they're not taught that they can.
Agreed, but the Jordan Peterson talks about this, in that he says at one point the concept of your intrinsic worth. He goes, well, he's like, first of all, what we're teaching now in school is you
have no worth.
valuable
Yeah,
just
you
the way
have
you
no
are. And he
worth
goes,
in a
well,
vacuum.
First of all, that's a load of BS.
Yeah.
He says.
In a vacuum, you would have no worth.
Well, and now in a modern context, because he's now more grounded in a theological point of view, he says at best you could say you were made in the image of God, which at least is something intrinsic.
Yeah, but
the
that's
bottom
also
line is-
referring to a...
But then he says it's but see that's it's a,
Yeah, it's your worth in comparison to something else.
right, and so it's a
So
reflection.
it's not a
of-
vacuum.
right?
in a sense.
And I would say that in my estimation, and again, what I would say that Aristotle either stopped short of because of death, if that's your argument, or that
I'm not saying had Aristotle lived longer, he would have become a Stoic. I'm simply saying I don't see them as being...
I would say I don't see them as being separate. I see them as being distinct, which is, again, a bit semantic, but it's that they are unique, but they are teamwork.
Now you're trying to pull a Trinitarian argument with your
No,
separate,
no.
distinct but not separate concept.
No, what I'm saying is they have their own expressions of maybe a similar ideal.
Well, but I mean, ultimately what you're saying, though, is that what the Stoics say is untrue, though. You're actually, by
disagree.
definition, you're disqualifying Stoicism as correct. You're not simply saying, well, they're both valid and I just like this one. You're saying, no, the Stoics claim something I don't think is possible.
It's not that it's not possible. It's that I don't know that it is a worldview that I agree with. There are certain parts of Stoicism I do disagree with. Again, pain being one of them, where I go, that's a bit of a strong statement, in my opinion. I think that to say we can overcome pain is one thing.
That's precisely
But to
what the Stoics say.
That's the sentiment, but that's not what they say. Marcus Aurelius, again, directly said pain is only internally existed.
Well, fundamentally it is. In the same
disagree.
way that light only exists if you have eyes.
Well, and this is where I say I disagree. I think that to suggest
Because
that something can't.
the idea then is,
This
what you're
is, I
saying is
suppose,
that
at best, what I've clarified is what the actual rub is, which is that I believe that in the Schrodinger's cat concept that something has existed,
But it's essentially it's the argument that I'm struggling with, and I'm finding a hard way to phrase my rebuttal, admittedly, is...
Do you need to rebut, is the question.
Well, yes, because I don't agree with what you're putting forth. The argument that, well, I'm trying to find an analogy that might describe it, because ultimately what you're saying is, everyone starts with a open door to let things in from the outside. What the Stoics are saying is that there is actually a door there that can be closed. And therefore you could prevent
and you're
those
in
things.
Control of it.
Yes. And so that's what the Stoics would say, and I agree with that. But what you're saying is, well, because when you're a child, the door is open and you don't know how to close it, therefore what the Stoics say is wrong, that there is
what
pain
I'm saying is that
and you
the
are going to
Stoics literally
experience it.
say there is no door.
No, they don't. They say the exact opposite. They say there is a door and you have the capacity to close it. They're not saying there isn't. The argument
External
isn't.
circumstance, that is what they're saying.
No, they're not saying.
Pain doesn't
no.
exist externally. That's what is implied by Marcus Aurelius saying pain is only intrinsic.
Well, okay, yes, because something can't get in unless it goes through the door, which they're saying there is one. Like, if you close the door, then the thing doesn't get in. So it's not saying that something, because again, pain, by definition, neurologically, is an experience in your mind, which you have a gate through. You can control
Sure.
what enters your mind.
And you can reframe something on a
Well, and therefore you
prefrontal
can-
level, but
therefore
that doesn't mean that
you
you're
can
not going to
alter-
have the neurons communicating to your brain, hey, my hand is on fire and this hurts.
Well, but
That's-
see, that's
I
not.
mean,
that's
that's a
not
physiological
That's also
argument.
not the kind of pain they were talking about. I'd like to
Well,
point out.
that's
They're
something
talking
that
about
you're
the
inferring, but the
no,
point
but they're
is-
talking no. I think any amount of Stoic digging would reveal that the kind of pain they're talking about is the same kind of pain the Buddhists talk about, where you're saying like all suffering stems from desire. Now, obviously, the Stoics don't say that, but I'm saying when they say suffering, they don't mean that stubbing your toe doesn't hurt. What they mean is they're talking about, in essence, like suffering on a spiritual level. They're not saying that there isn't such a thing as biological pain. There aren't. If you stick your hand in a fire, they're not saying that won't cause a signal in your brain that you will interpret as unpleasant. What they're saying is, in fact, I mean, there is even there is neurology to suggest that it's like, well, you can even to a large degree train your body to even ignore physical pain.
Yeah, you can ignore again.
But that's
that
again
doesn't
not
make
the kind
it
of
not
pain that they're
exist.
describing. Well, but see,
But that's
again,
my argument.
Well,
That
but
is
you're
the
getting
nuance.
this is where we're getting into the pedantry again, because I'm going, okay, what we're basically describing then is you have different definitions of pain in the same way that you can have different definitions of sound.
Well,
because by a certain definition of sound, if no one hears it, then a tree falling does not make a sound, because now admittedly that requires one definition.
Definitions of existence, because I don't believe that humans on a
We haven't talked about existence though, so it's not, I don't think that's the definition.
well, it is. It's me saying I believe the Stoic philosophy often communicates something to the effect that somehow they can be fully separate from or removed from external environment.
No,
and I don't
it's not that you
agree.
can be removed from it. In fact, that's crucial to Stoic teaching, is that you can't remove yourself from it. You can only, all you have is control over the gate. You can't stop what's outside the gate, but you can at least prevent it getting in. Like, it's still going to be out there, but it doesn't have to get in.
But that's not what things like
that
Marcus
is what
Aurelius quoting.
No,
that there's
see, I think you're
such
misinterpreting the
existing.
quote in that case.
Well, that may be true, but the point
Because
is
the argument
quote.
then the argument that okay, do you understand my point when I talk about the sound in the woods and the if you define
and I
sound
would-
as a sensory experience and there are no sensors, then there isn't a sound. There's
But
a pressure
I
wave.
disagree.
Well, no, okay, but I'm saying, do you recognize that that's how that argument can be considered true?
It could be
So
considered
then,
true.
by the same argument, pain is a neurological expression. That is
but I would
something
say
you
the
experience
converse
based
argument
on.
is equally true to say that there are still
Well, yes, but
sound
that's what I'm
waves and
saying
pressure
then.
waves.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is you're defining sound as a pressure wave.
Correct.
I'm defining sound as the experience of said pressure wave.
Correct.
Because there's plenty of pressure waves that don't generate sound.
Yeah. Sure.
And so there's also plenty of stimuli that don't generate pain.
Sure. That's
And
true
therefore, if you take this definition, then Marcus Aurelius is not making an incorrect statement. He's simply using a different definition of pain than you want to use.
too. Correct.
Okay.
And I would say that
so then
that
he is not
choice-
wrong. Neither of you technically are wrong because you haven't
No,
agreed on
again,
terms.
it's a different framework. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
There are many things that the Stoics frame that I just go, I don't know that I resonate with that as much
It's
as.
odd
and
though
again,
because it gives you, it does, I think it permits you, it gives you a great deal more power over yourself.
that's maybe
So
true.
why limit yourself voluntarily?
Because I think, again, it is more. It's a more. For me, and again, I'm saying this as somebody who says the golden mean that Aristotle talks about is that blend between both. And I think to say there's nothing that affects me outside of my own self is one extreme.
It's not even that.
that's
It's
not
nothing that
the
affects
golden
me that I
mean.
don't choose. Because again, I also bring Zen into this because that's one of the teachings I find most fascinating about Zen is that there is in Zen no such thing as unenlightenment, which is definitely a thing in Buddhism. Zen says actually there really isn't. The maximum level of enlightenment is to recognize that it doesn't exist. It's the,
Sure.
as Alan Watts puts it, you walk through the door only to turn and see there was never a door. When you achieve that level of enlightenment, you realize that even, quote, unenlightened behavior is still enlightenment because enlightenment is existence. All you have to do is reframe your thinking such that you realize that. So that's, I think, I forget why I was bringing that up. I do that a lot. You had just said something that triggered that.
Well, again,
I was going to tie it back.
It's the
idea that says, so you theoretically could be a Stoic and say, actually, I am going to allow this in, despite the fact that I don't have to.
But I would say that there are certain things that, again, this is the rub even within the concept of micro-passion or micro-expression or whatever it is, that is, well, I feel something, but then because I'm able to instantaneously reframe it with logic, then I have not felt it. And it's like, well, no.
See, that's not
Somebody
really
can say something that hurts me, and yes, I can reframe it, but that doesn't mean that words don't carry power. In fact, on a biblical level, even that's not true. So I go, I just think it's more
I don't think
honest.
it's that they're saying that they don't carry power. It's that you have an equal power to them.
Oh, 100%. And I would.
That's what I think.
Agree.
That's what I believe that is being communicated.
Maybe that's the sentiment. I mean, you could argue that that the lion's share, if you look at the broader picture.
Well, but
maybe
see,
is
now are you
communicating
gonna disqualify Marcus Aurelius for one choice of word?
And I'm not. No, neither am I disqualifying all of his philosophy because I think most of his stuff I've read, I'm going, oh, that's actually a really good thought. I'm
the
not
armored bat suit, apparently.
that we just got.
Apparently.
Let me see it. Put it on him.
I don't know that I can
see
do
his gams
that.
and armor.
I don't know if I can do that
Character
without starting another game.
options. Well, I mean, we can restart it just temporarily just to see.
I guess I can continue story. What does that do?
Continue the story with gams.
Well, I don't know what I've done. Continue seems to have started something. Might be starting over, actually.
Well, I mean, if it is, then
But I haven't made a choice about a suit.
nope.
Oh, no, I'm not.
So
This
put on the suit.
Well, I don't know how to do that here. I think you have to do that at the start.
Well, okay? Game options.
I don't think it's going to be one of these.
That
I
seems
think I got to
dumb.
do it from the start menu. I don't know.
Anyway, again, it's still a developing thought, but you should definitely look at the golden mean because I actually found it
Well,
very.
I don't disagree with most
enlightening.
Aristotelian philosophy, so I don't think I will have an issue with it.
Well,
I
but
just am
again-
saying if that option is presented to you to say, hey, you could actually buy really just internal, you could call it psychological evaluation, you could call it any number of things, but
Sure.
if you were presented the option that said you could actually choose what you allow in, why wouldn't you?
I would say I would, but philosophy built on the idea that anything else doesn't actually exist is not.
See, but I think you're being hung up on, because again, no doubt what you've read is an English translation, and you could perhaps find that it could be translated differently and more
Sure.
clearly. Because again, I think it's just a matter of saying.
But I also know that they do neglect, in my opinion, pathos for the superiority or the supremacy of ethos. Which again, is it wrong that ethos has superiority? No, but is the idea that we swing to the opposite end and say, of the two of these, we have to choose one? No. This is where the
But I
golden
don't think
mean
they
helps
say that
me.
either, though. They're saying to say that one goes first does not say the other one doesn't
I'm
go.
not talking about it being predicated on or predetermined or predicated on. What I'm saying is this is where the golden mean helped me
Oh, here it
because
is.
I always felt like I was a dualist. But really, it's not dualism as much as it is, again, finding that golden mean. The reason why I constantly play the devil's advocate and why I tend to be somebody who
I don't want leaderboard nonsense.
is a rhetorician of sorts is because I want to find that midpoint, that golden mean that says between these 2 points of cowardice and rashness, where is the actual courage?
But see,
Where
I don't
is
know that the
moment?
Stoics would disagree with any of that concept.
Maybe, but I'm saying within the concept even of ethics or logic, and so logos and, pathos, I go, no, there has to be somewhere in the middle. And I believe ethos exists in the blend and the cooperation of both those, in my opinion. Which is why I'm saying it's more honest to say that. To say something can hit me between the eyes, but then I have the power to reframe it is more honest than things can't hit me between the eyes if I don't allow them to. It's like, well, no.
Except, well, but see, that's where I think that's just sort of straining at gnats, because I think those are the same thing. Those two statements are the same. Because the Stoics do not suggest that external stimuli don't exist, but simply that you have the power over what external stimuli do to you. I mean, again, I think it's just a matter of saying, if you define pain as a reaction to a stimulus, you're not denying the stimulus by denying the pain. In the same way that you can feel, well, I mean, I'm going to go to a random place, but if you focus, you can stop yourself being ticklish. Now, it still doesn't mean that like the sensation goes away, but you can absolutely stop the reaction. So, and that's true of pain, even, where you can actually ignore it to such an extent that you're going, yes, the sensation still is there, but it does not have a direct access to your brain. It's being stopped before it gets there.
Sure.
And I'm simply saying I believe that to be possible because I have experienced it to be possible. And I guess why, if it is possible, not take advantage of it, because it does enable you to behave, I think, in a more consistent and
because I think
directed way.
Being more balanced about it allows you the...
Well, I think you can absolutely be balanced, but you can only be balanced. Well, I said not to say you can only. The ideal balance is to do the Zen thing where you have to reach the end and then turn around and see that it was always there.
But that's the actual achievement.
Yes, but you must. Yeah, sure, but you have to first gain. You cannot deny. Well, I don't accept the idea that I can't, react to stimuli, because that's not what Stoicism is saying. What Stoicism is saying is you do have the power, and then once you have achieved that power, once you have practiced it, you then can say, actually, I am going to allow myself to feel this emotion. Now, again, I have said this entire time that maybe my own personal version of Stoicism is more influenced by Zen than some.
Well, and I would also
maybe
say
that's unfair. I don't think it's unfair. I think they blend without really any disconnect. But
I don't know that they don't coincide.
I think to say that they don't coincide would imply that they must be.
They may be parallel, but they're not occupying the same space.
I would say that if they are parallel lines, they enclose the same space. They're on either side of the same space, which means the space between them is as far from one as it is from the other.
Sure.
Someone who has achieved this level of understanding is as much as Zen
to find that golden
person
mean,
as
and
a Stoic.
This is what I'm saying is, it's not that it's wrong to go, I have that total power and control. It is.
But again, that means you don't have to use it.
Rich.
That's Buddhism.
It's more rich to find that emotions can hit me between the eyes, or words, for instance, of others can hit me between the eyes and go, well, that stung. But now I'm going to take the power into my own hands and go, I'm going to do something with that. That, to me, is a better frame for understanding the totality of experience and of existence than to say, because here's the thing. I did go through the door in the sense that I went as far as to say, I'm not going to allow things like, I think when you subdue your passions to the point that intimacy
I'd like
and
to
things like that
we
become
have to then bring up
difficult.
the fact that passion in the Stoic sense by definition is not just emotion, but emotion that is negatively oriented.
Well, maybe then passion is the wrong word.
Well, because this is
Emotional expression, maybe.
well, no, but see, I don't
Things
think the
like
Stoics
intimacy
reject
and-
this though, in the same way that Zen Buddhists do not reject. This is why I keep bringing this parallel, because I do think it's valid, because the distinction, the better way of describing it is the difference between Buddhism and Zen, because Buddhism would say you have the power to detach from the world and live essentially purely in the enlightened state, and you must do so. The Zen understanding is, no, you do have that power, and when you have achieved enlightenment, it's at your discretion to do so. And I don't think the Stoics would go so far as to say, I have the capacity to detach myself from the external stimuli, and I must. I think that is a, I'm no expert by any means on skepticism, but I think that's more of the skeptic, is the idea that you must detach yourself from the external world because that's the only way to, it's not only a capacity. Well, okay, but skepticism in a philosophical sense is very different than the way we mean the word now.
No, I'm saying I actually adopted that fully in that I said, I'm just going to remove myself from the external world altogether.
Well, yeah, but see, I would agree with you that that's extreme, but Stoicism I don't think is that. Stoicism is the acknowledgement that you can do so, and that that the ability to do so is going to serve you in the pursuit of virtue, in the same way that a Zen practitioner would say that enlightenment is not a state I am trapped in, but rather a state that I can enter in and enter out. I can choose. I like the parable about the Zen master who cries when his parents die, and the student comes to him and says, you know, he's scandalized, thinking, you know, you're acting in emotion, you're revealing that you're attached to the real world, and you're all of these things that he's taught. And the master immediately stops crying on a dime and says, "Don't you see that I'm crying because I want to?" That's totally valid, and I don't think that's.
No, it is.
I think Stoicism agrees with that. Now, maybe maybe that's my
on
Zen
paper,
bias.
Then, there is no margin or no, and maybe this is unfair because I haven't read all of Stoicism.
I haven't either.
and-
Seneca's hard to get a hold of in used bookstores.
But I believe that on paper, that qualification isn't stated. And in Aristotelianism, it is. And
I
that's
suppose-
to me why it's important.
Maybe it's not stated, I guess, but I mean that.
So you asked me to furnish you with the why. That's why. I feel
Well,
like
but
that.
I don't think that simply because it's not stated doesn't mean it isn't within the bounds of the established.
No, I agree with you.
I think-
it's very possible that oftentimes they coexist, but I don't think that means they're the same. So call it Trinitarian or duality
Well,
if you like, but
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is I think you have to first master the capacity before you then get to choose when to use it. It's a little bit like jazz, where it's like you don't just break
Sure.
the rules of musical theory from the get-go. As a matter of
'cause
fact,
then you're
you
not
actually
doing it-
have to master them before you can break them right.
Right.
That's why jazz is a high art form, despite the fact that it bucks most musical conventions. Because once you've established mastery of the musical conventions, you know when they have give and take, and you can use that. But you can't just say, it's not like it's all classical music where you must adhere to the musical conventions because they're standard and they're perfect and they can't be changed. I guess I don't have a source to say, here's exactly where this Stoic philosopher said that you're allowed to do this. My understanding of Stoicism does not take objection to that choice, because after all, if Stoicism is entirely about choice, basically, it's all, as I've said, it's all about agency, essentially, about your own mastery of yourself. Surely, mastery of yourself then means that you get to choose when you are in control and when you're not. And
Oh, but
choosing to not be in control is actually still being in control, as contradictory as it sounds, in the same way that behaving in an unenlightened fashion by choice is still an enlightened act.
Or you could not be contradictory and just say that you...
I just said I don't think it is contradictory. I said it might...
sounds contradictory.
Yeah,
whereas-
because it's in the same way that jazz might sound like it's wrong. Because if you're someone who's only ever studied music theory, you might think, well, what they're doing doesn't match the theory, therefore it's wrong.
That's
but I think
actually a good statement, though, because I think what I'm saying is Stoicism is music theory.
I don't think
And
I agree.
I'm saying jazz is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, but I don't think I agree. I think that's an overly rigid view of Stoicism.
That may be very true.
Because and again, this may be I'm extrapolating, and I mean I'll defend why I'm extrapolating, because I think, as I've already said, if Stoicism is entirely
you want
about
me to be a Stoic, that's why.
no, if Stoicism, well, no, I'm defending why I'm a Stoic, if anything, because
Sure.
if Stoicism is about mastery of the self as a means for attaining virtue, then that means mastery of the self is, by nature, what Stoicism insists upon is that your will be in control, which means you are allowed to act unenlightened, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
You are allowed to let something in that Stoicism would tell you have the power not to, because choosing to let it in is different than being at its mercy. And I think
That
that's what
is a very
Stoicism.
true
That's
and a
what I think
very-
Stoicism is about. Is never.
That's a very wise statement.
Well,
I like
and that's
that.
where I think Stoicism differs from skepticism, as much as I understand skepticism, which I don't entirely. But Stoicism would say that it is non-virtuous, or I guess vicious, in the philosophical sense of the term, to be at the mercy of the external factors. That doesn't mean that you are required to reject them wholesale. I think it's more skepticism that says you must oppose the external forces. Stoicism
would
would say you must not be at the mercy of the external forces.
My distinction is probably not unlike the fact that you and I are both 4-5 combinations, but I am a 4-5, you are a 5-4. So it's like the concept is that one has the cart before the horse. I mean, that's maybe a bad example. I mean, one has...
It means that one of us is wrong, and
No, that's not what I'm saying. One of us has the juxtaposition of the other as far as what it's prioritizing. You tend to prioritize reason because you're a 5-4. I tend to prioritize emotion, so I'm a 4-5, and therefore I'm arriving at a very similar place. But I believe Aristotle kept pathos in the mix very intentionally. There are many writings that he talks about the existence of pathos within what is it called? Rhetoric. He talks about the existence of passion or of pathos within the golden mean. And so it's like, okay, that makes more sense to me. And it's possible, again, that it's just on paper, and the Stoics would say, well, we don't disagree with anything he's saying, we just say it differently. And that's fine. But I don't know. I mean, that's a little bit like Catholics and Orthodox saying that they say similar things. I mean, they just have a different expression and worldview of how they're practicing it, I guess. It's a bit of the philopraxy, if I could coin a phrase.
I don't think that makes sense.
It does make sense.
That would just mean
I'm just telling you it does.
the love of action? The love of practice?
Philopraxy. No, not philo as in Philadelphia. I'm saying philo as in like philosophy, like philospraxy. What would that be?
Well, philo is the love.
Philopraxy.
It would have to be sophopraxy, is what you mean.
But see, you don't like the word sophistry, so
Sophistry and sophos are two different words.
sure.
So, because philo is the love part. So you can't take that out and call it philopraxy, because that would then mean the love of praxis. If you want it to be the practice of wisdom, it would have to be sophopraxy.
Yeah, sophopraxy. But
Or you could just call it orthopraxy, because it means the same thing.
does it?
Not etymologically, but because technically ortho literally just means straight. But the reason...
Keep yourself straight.
Well,
That's the
that is what
bottom line.
orthopraxy means. It is used allegorically, meaning like headed in the right direction.
Right.
Not winding.
Anyway.
But strictly speaking, ortho means straight. That's why you have an orthodontist whose job is to make your teeth straight.
Sure.
But it also, like, orthodoxy and orthopraxy means straight thinking or
Right.
more broadly right thinking.
Anyway, I thought that was an interesting, like, just addition because I'm still developing it. So it's very possible I'll come across something with Aristotelianism and I'm like, okay, yeah, it is just Stoicism. But I have yet to find that because I find that consistently Aristotle stops just short of.
Yeah, but does he stop short of, or did he go farther and then step back?
That's a question that only I could ask him.
I suppose. Where did he end up?
Where did he end up? Let's exhume.
How much purgatory would have been required? I think I think he is.
Where are you on the?
According to
concept?
Dante, I'm pretty sure he was in the
that-
first circle. I don't think he ended up in purgatory.
I suppose you.
I'm not at all posing this as a serious theological question.
Well, I was about to say, where are you on the case of purgatory?
Undecided, like the Orthodox.
Really?
Yeah, the Orthodox don't teach it.
Well, they don't teach it because they don't believe it.
I don't know that they outright deny it. They're kind of like, we don't know.
I think
I appreciate the Orthodox for a lot of things that they just go, yeah, we don't know. We call them divine mysteries for a reason.
Sure.
The Catholics, I think, undo themselves by trying to be so litigious. The Orthodox are like, hey, we don't know how it works. God's above us.
Though? Is that not or distinct from or indifferent than what I'm saying in that, again, it's how far you go with it. I think the idea of Aristotle going, well, can you do that as far as the Stoics do?
I mean, the answer is yes, you can. The question is, do you have to?
Should you?
Well, that's, I guess, the valid question. But I think to make a choice to feel something is still a Stoic choice as long as it is actually a conscious choice. If it's,
sure,
I'm at the mercy of this stimulus, that's your own failure. Because
that I agree
if
with.
It's...
if you were at the mercy of, I would say even Aristotle would agree with that.
Because because it makes perfect sense to say, okay, I'm perfectly capable of ignoring a rude comment from a stranger on the street because I don't know them.
Right.
Their
so
word,
you're framing
I have absolutely no reason to take their words to heart.
Right. Exactly.
Now,
in that case, I would say
a close family member or a loved one saying that, you could consciously make the choice that says, well, I'm just as capable of ignoring your words.
Yeah.
But you would potentially in that circumstance choose to let the words in, if only because you have already established that this person is someone whose words you want to value, and therefore, if they're saying something that's harsh, maybe you need to listen to it. Now, you could still come to the same conclusion and go, actually, I have thought about it, and I think you're wrong, and therefore, I don't.
Right.
But as long as it's a conscious choice, I think you're still within the right bounds of Stoicism, because after all, Stoicism, in my opinion, again, I'm no expert or authority on the matter, but I think Stoicism is all about choice. So as long as you're still engaging your active choice, then you can feel whatever you want. So long, I suppose, the Stoics would probably draw the line at saying, if you allow feelings, even if you consciously allow feelings and then use those feelings as a excuse for bad behavior, then I think they'd say you're going beyond.
Well, and that's even
to
something
simply
Aristotle would say.
Simply say, well, I'm going to allow myself to feel this, if only because why not?
Yeah, I think what it helped me, the chiefest among my concerns, what it helped me square is my lean into, again, what I would call dualism, where it's like, well, it's an already but not yet. It's a,
we're talking like Cartesian dualism or what?
More of a Zen in the more yin yang dualism, where it's like there's a balance to both, and you have to find that. But again, the golden mean is what that communicates, which is like there's a mid ground.
But see, I would go so far as to say that Zen's not a matter of dualism. Zen's actually
both and.
Well, it's a monism, and essentially they're saying they don't actually. They're not separate. They appear separate, but they're not.
Right.
So it isn't.
Well, and this is
it's
why
not
I'm
dualism. It's actually singularism.
Oneness. Yeah, exactly. It's oneness. Yeah.
I don't know if there's a term for that on a Western.
Well, I mean, on a theological, it would be called oneness theory, but it's again part of the Trinity within the what is it called, the Athanasian Creed. It's like it's unity and oneness within Trinitarian expression, and that's what it is. Anyway, food for thought, kids.